You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Howdy, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and we're back again. This time, we have a good show for you, of course, and, we had a good time in Virginia, too, didn't we, babe?
We survived a hurricane.
We outlived the power outage.
Oh, my gosh,
yes,
that was scary for a minute.
We did that. We were completely frightened because the wind was blowing and it was just hectic outside. But no, we came back, we lived, and we're here to tell you a story. But, we got a good show because we changed the format a little bit this time. We're going to have a guest here who's going to not only talk about the main topic, which is the marijuana topic, which we're going to get to in a minute, but also about what was going on with the Dakota pipeline. There we go.
This is a subject that hasn't been given a lot of media attention, if you will, from the current media pools like your CNNs, your NBCs. So it's important to us, and we thought we need to make sure and get the word out, at least on a local level, about what's going on and what we can do to help.
Exactly, and some of the protests that you may have heard of, maybe you've seen in some of your Facebook timelines or even on some of the links in your Twitter pages, this woman has actually been there. She was there. Okay, so we're not talking about third party, second party. We're talking about first party rules here of somebody that's actually on the front line. So they're going to be able to give you a first person account of what happened. And that's going to be something that's pretty exclusive, I think.
And we're just so honored that she's able to take time out of her crazy schedule. I mean, busy, crazy schedule to spend time with us and share with us her experiences.
Exactly. So you're going to have to listen for that. And, obviously there's going to be more coming up. And the more that's coming up, which is going to be our main topic today, is if marijuana is legalized, what impact would that have on your community?
Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh, wacky weed.
The wacky tobacco.
No,
it's going to corrupt the world.
It's going to kill you. Reefer madness. It's going to turn your children into zombies. Legalize it or not. Let's see what's going to happen on, somebody. She's also an attorney. So, I mean, we're talking about somebody who knows. She knows not just what's going to happen, but, what some of the statutes, I guess some of the upcoming elections, what's going to be happening on it.
Exactly. On the Arizona ballot, there's a proposition regarding this topic, so we are definitely going to spotlight it today.
All right. So let's get into it then, huh?
Yeah.
So who do we have? Introduce her.
It is my honor.
Oh.
Yes, I said that, and I don't use that word very lightly.
What?
It is my honor to have a dear friend and an outstanding attorney, Sonia Martinez.
Sonia!
Yay!
All right. Sonia is here to discuss some things with us, but first she's going to tell us what happened, where.
She was at the Sacred Stone Camp in North Dakota. And just to give you an idea, she was right there with all of the volunteers, tribes, and just really around all the people then that are there to support and protect Earth, our Mother Earth, and of what is trying to be built to sabotage our planet. So, Sonia, please describe to us the environment and what you were doing out there.
Hey, well, Drea, I really appreciate it. And, for the Drea, I appreciate being on the show. Thank you all so much. And thank you so much for really bringing light to this topic and bringing attention to this topic. Because as you all said, there really is a national media blackout on this. You're not really seeing this on national media, although quite recently I've seen a little bit on some local Fox News. Lawrence O'Donnell was there, quite frankly.
Wow.
Last week when I was there, Lawrence O'Donnell was there for a couple of days. From my understanding, he actually camped out at the Sacred Stone Main Village camp for a couple of days and did prepare something on MSNBC, but I think it was like at 2 a.m. and is not something on the local 5 p.m. news, if you will. So my name is Sonia Martinez. I'm an attorney here in the state of Arizona. However, the National Lawyers Guild is an organization, a nationwide organization, and the National Lawyers Guild decided to pull some did a call for attorneys across the nation, trying to determine if there were any attorneys out there, native and non-native, that were able to head up to Cannonball, North Dakota, to the Sacred Stone Camp to assist the Sacred Stone Camp, the camp goers, and others there with respect to any legal issues at all. Mm-hmm. So the week that I was called out, I essentially had a little bit of a clear week, and I advised the main heads that I was a Native American attorney who was willing to assist with whatever community issues were present, whether it's family issues, school issues, because one of the main things that I heard that I was really interested in was the creation of a school for the children that were going to be staying there long term. So for those of you who are not familiar with the camp, this camp actually was created in April of 2016, and we have had from a few hundred to a few thousand individuals camped out at this site. Again, it's the Sacred Stone Camp in Cannonball, North Dakota. When I was there, I started off there during midweek, and there were approximately 1,500 people camped out there in their tents and their teepees along the Cannonball River. Oh. And it built up to about 5,000 people by the time I left. So I was helping with the legal efforts and essentially interviewing individuals. I was present during the day last Saturday when there were vicious dog attacks by the Dakota Access Pipeline Security
we saw
Guard
that.
team.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, they actually did attack them. Like these there. I don't know if you got to see some of the pictures, but I mean, these people were actually bleeding. Where they posted them on Twitter, where the dogs had blood in their mouth from the attacks that they had on these people. I mean, reminded us in the '60s when they were attacking peaceful protesters.
Exactly, and just to kind of just speak a little bit as to that exact episode, what a lot of news organizations are not reporting, for those organizations that are reporting on it, they're not reporting this, and that is that morning, every morning at 10 o'clock, people went up for prayer. So there was a sacred site that a couple hundred people would go up for prayer every single morning. So there were just a group of people up there praying. While they were up there praying, they heard word that there were 3 or 4 bulldozers out about a mile down the road starting to bulldoze one of the burial sites.
Wow.
Just so you know, 2 days before, the tribe had filed paperwork basically detailing where all the burial sites and the cultural property sites were, to explain to the court, please don't let the pipeline continue to go through these sites. So it essentially, what we believe is that the Dakota Pipeline looked at that list of the sites where they were and intentionally went to one of the burial sites and was about to start bulldozing, when at first about 30 or 40 people showed up, primarily women and children. Mm-hmm. And what essentially started it all was a woman and her child go under the fence to talk to one of the workers who was, acting as security for the bulldozers. And she walked up to him with her son in her hand and said, "Sir, we want your help. My son needs to drink, good, clean water, and we want you to help us. Please stop this." The next thing we know, there was another Native American man who walked in front of the bulldozer to try to stop the bulldozer from continuing to desecrate the burial grounds. And the next thing you know, he was attacked by the security guard. And before you know it, there were 5 or 6 dogs and security personnel all around unleashing these dogs on these women and children. There was a suggestion that the Native Americans had weapons, pipe bombs, things like that.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
That, it couldn't be further from the truth. There were 200 people out there praying. There are pictures of individuals with sticks, things that look like sticks in their hand, but if you actually look at the full picture, it's their flag that they're carrying in their hand, and they had to turn it around when the dogs came at them for self-protection measures.
Of course, who wouldn't?
Exactly. But, there was a lot of activity there, but the most fantastic activity, what I really want to speak just briefly about is what the community was all about. So I walk into the Sacred Stone Camp, and what is it? It is a community being built up from the ground up by tribes all across the world. While I was there, I was able to see, for example, one of the most beautiful coming together of the Lakota people. The Lakota people had come in and were in their prayer song. There were about 30 of the Lakotas in their prayer song. And in the middle of their prayer song, at that time, the Aztecs from Mexico City, Mexico, came in doing their prayer dance, and were dancing to the Lakota prayer song.
Look at that mix.
Look at that.
Look at that mix. That's nice.
our brothers from the South and our brothers from the North joining together. And one woman took the microphone actually at that point after the ceremony was over and talked about how one of the prophecies from her community was such that the Lakotas were going to be joined by their brothers in the South.
Look at that.
Over the Black Snake. And I will tell you that every person I met from a different community, they all had the same prophecies. And the prophecies related to all nations coming together over the Black Snake.
Wow.
What we all think now is the Black Snake is the oil pipeline. And it really all makes sense. I had a reporter harass me for about 15 minutes when I was there asking me, well, what is it about this particular event, this particular story that made you want to come from Arizona? And it was a real difficult answer because he said, there's water issues everywhere. There's water protest everywhere. There's one going on in Canada right now. There's one, going on in Maine right now. There's one going down in the Rio Yaqui right now. There's one going down in the Amazon right now. What is it about this place? And for 15 minutes, he tried to get, an answer out of me. And I said, sir, you have to understand, it was a calling. If you ask anybody here why they're at this camp, it was a calling. Something in them made them come here, just like me. There was a calling for me to come here, and my experience will never be forgotten. I hope to go again, but to be clear, that camp was the most peaceful, beautiful camp I've ever seen, been a part of. The community was a fantastic community with individuals building schools, food. There were volunteers for just about everything, including, I remember when a group of 4 or 5 carpenters showed up with all of their equipment and started to build different shelves and different tables for the school children to have.
Wow.
See, this sounds really cool. It's like I'm loving the the unity that comes through. And it's funny when there's always a crisis, that's when everyone comes together. And I wish that everybody could do it. Of all nations, of all people, all cultures, all creeds, all colors would be able to do the same thing. Where it's a sense of community, in a sense of urgency, but then it just stays afterwards. And I hope that the people over at Standing Rock and everybody else beyond will be able to do that beyond. I mean, it's really beautiful that you were able to actually witness this. Not just witness, but experience it. In case people don't know, make sure you do a Google search on the Standing Rock Sioux, the native group whose source of drinking water will be crossed multiple times by the pipeline. Because it's going to be really important for you to see not only what Sonia's saying, because she's speaking about what was on the inside. She's speaking about the inside, the things that the news reporters will not report about and are really important things, that sense of community. So I think that it's really an important issue.
Sonia, I just want to thank you. And what we can do is if you have any email addresses or anything like that, we'll make sure and post it on our Facebook and all of our sites then to get people going.
Please listen carefully. Please listen carefully.
Thank you.
Water is life, if you watch, honey.
Once again, make sure you listen to the Zod and Drea podcast by subscribing to one of the following podcast methods: iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. Visit our website at www.zodanddrea.com to go directly to the links, or if you choose, you can listen to each podcast episode directly on the website under their individual posts.
Want to get involved and have your voice heard on the next podcast? Then be sure to tune in to the question of the week on our website, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram page. And dial in and leave a message on our voicemail at 323-963-4221.
If you're an advertiser who would like to have your 30-second or 1-minute placement on our podcast or YouTube episode, please contact us at info@zodanddrea.com and we'll send you a price list. Space is limited for each episode.
The next podcast might even have you as a featured guest.
Tune in, check us out, and get involved.
And we are back, everyone.
All right.
We are continuing our conversation with our guest today, Sonia Martinez.
You know it.
But we are now going to shift things a little bit and now address then our question of the week, which was, if marijuana was legalized, what impact would that have in your community? Now, Proposition 205 is on the Arizona ballot this November. And Sonia is part of the committee and organization, if you will, to inform the public about this proposition. And I'm going to leave it now to Sonia to explain then what she's doing regarding that and information that she's getting out to the public.
Please explain it to us.
We want to know.
Okay, well, I will tell you what I do know. Sonia Martinez, attorney in Mesa, Arizona, and I am currently working with a campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol. That is actually the campaign that has put Proposition 205 on the ballot, and it's coined as it is for a variety of reasons, including to really highlight the hypocrisy of the basically of the prohibition of cannabis in this state. And speaking of hypocrisy, before I get into a lot of what the initiative is actually about, let me just point out that the current main opponents, including Bill Montgomery and other individuals, Arizona for Responsible Drug Use, they just recently got a $500,000 donation from a company out of Chandler, Arizona, that is essentially an opiate maker, but also a company that is planning to make synthetic cannabis and want to sell it on the market as soon as soon as they hope that cannabis, the legalization wouldn't go through. So just to point that out.
A synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Synthetic. It's going to be made in a laboratory, and they apparently intend to sell it to our community members.
Like salvia? I mean, what?
So now kind of go back a little bit and maybe just inform those that maybe don't know the difference between an opiate and the benefits of cannabis. Can you compare the two?
Well, I personally cannot compare to the two in the sense that I am fortunate enough to never have had to take any opiates. Mm-hmm. I am a Proposition 203 patient, which means that I am a person who does use medical cannabis when I have to deal with chronic pain. So I've been lucky enough to not ever subject myself to pharmaceuticals, but I definitely know that a variety of studies have come out with respect to opiates, which are essentially painkillers, if you will. And a lot of the studies that show that for states that do have medical marijuana, those are states where individuals, the statistics are less individuals die from opiate use, opiate overdose, and opiate type injuries, if you will, primarily overdoses and in combinations with other things like alcohol and other drugs. So essentially, if you have chronic pain, you could either take an opiate, a pharmaceutical that's manufactured in a company somewhere in a lab, or you could utilize cannabis, which is, as we all know, a natural plant, and you could use it in a variety of different forms, including smoking it, vaporizing it, utilizing it in edibles, utilizing it in tinctures, which are oils that you put under your tongue. You could use it in different sprays, body lotions. There's even a company out there called Mary's Medicinals that has come out with a localized pain patch.
Wow.
So you could actually utilize cannabis for pain relief in a variety of different forms. And that's just talking about pain relief and its comparison to opiates in cannabis. As we spoke a little bit before the show even went on, cannabis is used for a variety of different ailments, from your average headache to anti-seizure properties.
Now that I've seen some things like that, some of the anti-seizure property, like I forgot what it was. It wasn't. I might be thinking about Lazarus oil or something like that. I think there was a movie, but it kind of reminded me of that, where someone actually made oils out of, I guess, hemp. Like some of the hemp, is it the hemp or the cannabis that are the properties that help people out? What is it in? Is it the THC? What is it inside of the weed, marijuana, the cannabis that helps out people medicinally versus the people who do it recreationally, who just do it just to get high?
Okay, so let's kind of orient ourselves here.
All right.
First and foremost, cannabis is always medicinal, if you will. That is, if you consume cannabis, it's going to have a medicinal therapeutic effect on your body in some way, shape, or form, whether that's relaxing you a little bit more, whether that's giving you a sense of relief so that you could have sleep that night, or if you're having issues with not eating or pain issues. No matter what your intention is when you consume cannabis, it's always going to be medicinal in some sense, if you will. Let me be clear, though. There are a variety of different types of cannabis. There are the main types, if you will, are sativas and indicas. Sativas are for very specific ailments and for specific things, to treat specific things. If you use indicas are to treat other types of ailments. So, for example, I will tell you, I am a person who who probably for the past 5 years hasn't smoked any sativa cannabis because sativas do not do anything for me in terms of what I need to cure my chronic pain due to my back injury. And then there's a form of cannabis is essentially very high CBD cannabis that has very low, what they call THC. So high CBD cannabis is cannabis that people use for seizure disorders and things like that. What a lot of companies who are studying the different compounds of THC are realizing is that there are just dozens and dozens and dozens of different compounds in cannabis. So it's not just the CBDs. Mm-hmm. It's the CBDs, it's the THCs, it's everything combined in its synergistic effect that make it medicinal. But again, depending on what your ailment is, you're going to use certain types and certain volumes and certain concentrates. And you have to be educated about what those different types are and how much you should use.
So then if this proposition is passed, could that mean then that Joe Blow down the street can just go ahead and start smoking up his weed in front of the Circle K or in front of a church or a school because now it's legalized?
Of course not. That would be silly and that would be, not responsible and not safe. To be clear, there's a time, place, and there are time, place, and manner provisions within this initiative, including a provision that says you cannot smoke in public. Of course, you can't smoke in public. Not everybody appreciates the smoke. Again, realistically, it's always going to be medicinal. So you have to be careful about it. Again, time, place, and manner restrictions. So there's no smoking in public. You can't drive impaired. There's still all the rules and regulations about that. There are regulations in it with respect to employers and employer rights as respects what they could do to their employees. There are regulations in there as respects local rights. So cities have the right to say no dispensaries in our city.
So it almost sounds like they can kind of treat it exactly like alcohol. I mean, if they regulate it like alcohol, which seems like it's a lot more dangerous in the world, but if they can regulate it like alcohol, then it would just be fine. Just like you can't drink at work, you can't drink and drive in public impaired.
You can drink in church.
You can't drink. I mean, you can, but it's the blood of. Drinking. I mean, the same thing with marijuana. Like you said, you can vaporize it. You can be cool about it. Basically, you don't have to abuse the system. And I think that's what people think is going to happen if you legalize it. Prop 205 going past and all of a sudden, chaos. That's when everybody's going to come out and go crazy,
Stoners everywhere.
Stoners
unite, free the weed.
Oh my God, it's going to be nuts. Because that always happens.
Right.
And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality, the way I look at it is I look at it in a variety of different ways, including if it legalizes, anybody who used cannabis before is probably going to continue to use it. Anybody who didn't use it before is probably not going to use it just because it's legalized. Don't get me wrong. Are some people perhaps going to experiment with it? Perhaps. Right. But I've known enough people to experiment with cannabis and decide it's not for them. Right. It doesn't, they don't appreciate it. It doesn't help them. There's nothing about it that, they want to continue to use it for. So in my opinion, the individuals that do use are going to continue. The individuals that don't are going to continue not to. Right. I don't think there's going to be any significant change as respects the consumers, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I think that one important thing, that was just mentioned was essentially all of these presumptions and these stereotypes as to what may happen. Right. It couldn't be further from the truth.
Now, do they have any not experiments, but I guess first case studies? Some case studies such as the legalization in Denver?
Do they state of Colorado,
and even the whole state of Colorado. I mean, where chaos has not ensued and people have gone crazy, but have other things happened? Maybe impaired driving, or were there increases in anything that you know of?
Well, there were definitely decreases. There were a study out of Colorado, a recent study showed that there is actually a decrease in the rate of teenage use of cannabis.
Look at that.
So as much as there's a theory that it's going to pass and a lot more teens are going to start smoking, actually the opposite has come to fruition out of Colorado. There were a variety of studies that were just done on impaired driving, including a study by AAA that alleged an increase in impaired drivers and alleged an increase in accidents. However, if you actually read the footnotes, if you actually read that study and read the footnotes make it very clear that they will not be able to correlate any increase in accidents or anything to do with impaired driving with the legalization of recreational cannabis in their state.
Just like teenagers, once it's legalized, it's like it's not cool
It's
anymore.
not fun anymore.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it no more. And Sonia, you touched a little bit about previously who the opposition is on this proposition. Can you describe more about some of the key players and why they're opposing, again, legalizing recreational use of marijuana?
Sure. Actually, there's a variety of different opponents. The main opponents are those that you would actually expect. That is our county attorney, Bill Montgomery, Yavapai County Attorney Sheila Polk, Arizona's for safe and responsible drugs. Again, so there are prosecutors, if you will, and other organizations that essentially want to stomp out drugs everywhere, if you will. So those are the obvious ones, but there are some not so obvious ones. For example, there's an organization called Safer Arizona. Safer Arizona is an organization that does not appreciate this initiative because, in a nutshell, and I can't speak for them, but I've seen enough of their writings to know that they believe it's not true legalization. They believe that certain things in the initiative, for example, the fact that one could still be charged with a felony if they are caught with over an ounce of cannabis on them, that's true in the initiative still. Over an ounce. So Safer Arizona is a group that does want to legalize cannabis here in Arizona, but they don't like how this initiative is written. They think that this initiative is very pro-dispensary owner. It is not a true legalization in that there should be no criminal penalties at all, et cetera, et cetera. And while I appreciate that and very much agree with some of the comments and concerns, respecting the issue whether this is full legalization or not, what I definitely also have to remember is that we are in the state of Arizona. We are in a red conservative state. Yep. We are not, in Long Beach, California, where we're talking about this. We're talking about it in a state that only passed medical marijuana with 5,000 additional votes. It was very, very, very close 5 years ago when we got medical marijuana.
Not very well known as a progressive state. Yeah. Not very well known as that.
Yeah, so there's not so obvious, and then there's the group of other folks. I was talking to some of what we call bud tenders in dispensaries, the individuals that are at the counters, showing you the different goods they have. They're called bud tenders, just like bartenders. They're bud tenders.
That's hysterical.
Bud tenders, and the bud tenders, there was a couple of that I've talked to. I've asked them about what their thoughts are, and some of them have said, hey, well, we've tried so hard to make this medicinal that now making it recreational, if you will, it kind of is defeating the purpose. And so they have issues with that. However, the way I see it and the way I know it, again, is that cannabis is one of the, and I don't know of any other plant that is out there like this or anything like this. It is the one plant that could, depending on how much you use and what you use, could help you take a nap, could get rid of that headache, or could actually stop your child from having grand mal seizures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been proven. I mean, they've done studies on this.
So there's a wide variety and the spectrum of how you could, how cannabis could be used is so wide and so varied.
And to me, it's scary to hear of a pharmaceutical company that's trying to imitate that synergistic quality that the plant has. You can't duplicate nature.
You can't duplicate nature.
You can't.
They try. They're cloning. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right.
Stem cell weed. Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyway, you know what? We got to give a shout out to Sonia Martinez, attorney-in-law. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
And in case you want to know, the Arizona Marijuana Legalization Initiative, also known as Proposition 205, is on the November 8th, 2006 ballot in Arizona as an initiated state statute.
Vote, vote, vote. Get out there and vote.
Yeah, make sure you vote. And, we love this.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Oh, there we go, babe.
This was a great show.
This was a great show. We did it. We had Sonia on here giving us all kinds of facts on, the Dakota pipeline that's going on there, the oil killing people, or at least the potential to kill everybody, but also the culture and the nature and the sense of community that went on there, as well as the marijuana statute.
Yeah, for Proposition 205. So pretty much the theme that we wanted to carry on with this show is be aware of what's going on in your world, guys. Go take a look outside your own window and get involved. And if there's a certain subject you want us to spotlight, please email us or shoot us a text, something. Communicate to us.
Make sure you go on our Facebook page, Zod and Drea. Also, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter. We are always there, always looking out for you. Or email us at zodanddrea@gmail.com.
Take care, everyone. Be kind. And again, thank you so much.